Awesome. So the way we're going to be doing this is we are going to be spreading this across close to 1.5 hours. I have broken it down into three different segments. In the first segment, I'm going to speak to you about what is full stack development, what goes into building an application from scratch, end to end, right? In the second segment, I'm going to be telling you as to what are the trending technologies that are there currently in the industry, the kind of technologies companies are working on, and how you can position yourself for better career opportunities. That's going to be the second session. And in the third session, we're going to be having a Q&A. Any doubts, any questions that you have, you will be able to speak to me and get your doubts clarified. All right. So those are going to be the three different sessions that we're going to be having in today's webinar. So are you all excited? Let's get started. First and foremost, at the end of the day, if you think about building an application, there is primarily three different areas that you need to be focusing on. So the first one happens to be a front end. That is what the user gets to see. And then you have something called as the backend, as well as the database. So what you would have done is when you've been researching things online, you've always heard or you've come across these terms like front-end developers, back-end developers, and full stack developers, right? So this is a webinar on full stack development. So I'm sure you guys know what is full stack development all about, but it's just that you're not like very sure. You've heard about the term. It's not that the term is very new to you. You've heard about the term, but you're not sure as to what technologies goes where and how to use them. Now, the main reason why we conduct these webinars is to inform people as to what is full stack development all about and how they can channelize their careers. I get asked this a lot. People send out emails to me, questions to me saying like, sir, how do I become a developer and things like that. Hence, I always think about having these kind of webinars where I can share the information and the knowledge. All right. So you need to keep in mind that whenever you're building any kind of a real world application, now let us say we speak about Facebook. Again, there are three items that they're going to be focusing on. There's going to be front end, there's going to be back end, and then there's the database. Before we get into what technologies goes where, let us have a clear picture in front of our eyes as to how applications are built, and then how communication happens between or how communication happens within an application. All right. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on right now. So at the end of the day, you have something called as the front end, which is predominantly called as the client side. While in college or while you're working, you must have heard about this concept, client server technology. Communication between the client and the server. What does it mean? That's what we're going to be understanding here. So front end is basically your client side. It is what the user gets to see. Now, let us say that we are using Facebook. What do? We go to our browsers and we type facebook.com and we hit enter. So that's basically when we are accessing Facebook. So we get to see it on our browser. Now, keep in mind, you also have a mobile interface for it, but we're not going to be getting into the mobile aspects. We're going to be focusing more from the web aspects of things. So at the end of the day, any application that you take is going to be executed on the browser. Which browser? Any of the browser, right? It could be Chrome, it could be Firefox, it could be Internet Explorer, any of the browsers. So what happens is that comprises of your front end. Front end is nothing but the client side, and any piece of code the user is trying to access, they don't have to install any special software for it. They can just open the browser. Browser itself becomes a very sophisticated software. Especially when you start working as front-end developers or when you start working on technologies, you will understand that browsers are one of the most sophisticated tools that are there. So far, what we are using browsers for is maybe for doing a quick Google search, watching some videos on YouTube, or following our friends on Facebook. That's what we are using browsers for. But as developers, you will learn that there's humongous amount of possibilities people can build using browsers. Okay. So then you have the backend. And what happens on the backend? Backend is also called as the server side. So you have the client side, which is the front end. You have the server side, which is the backend. So when you talk about the server side, it further is broken down into two different set of categories. One is the server itself, and then you have this special software called as a database. Now, many a times when people get into the field of development, when they encounter the term server, they'll be like wondering what is a server. At the end of the day, keep in mind, a server is nothing but a computer which is connected to the internet. 24/7, 365 days a year. Okay, it is nothing but a computer system, but the important thing is it's connected to the internet. Now, why should it be connected to the internet? So that you and I, we can access the application, or we can access the data that is on the server. That's the reason it has to be connected to the internet. Just like how if we disable internet on our laptop or on our mobile phone, what happens? Do you think we'll be able to access internet? Absolutely not. We get disconnected. Similarly, servers are also like that. Now, when you talk about server, or when you talk about server-side programming, the responsibilities that a front-end developer has and the server-side developer has is slightly different. The front-end developer is more focused on the UI aspects. That is what the user gets to see. The backend developer is going to be focused more on the logical part of it. Now, let me give you an example. Let's say we open our browser and we say facebook.com and we hit enter. Now, what is happening at the end of the day? We are either seeing all the posts of our friends, or we are redirected to a login page where we first have to log in. So what is happening when we make a request from the browser to the server? The kind of code that we write on the server is things like this. Okay, who's the user? Is he logged in? And things like that. If he is logged in, okay, fetch all the data from the database. Fetch all the data from the database. Why is database used? It's this special software where all the information gets stored. It's like a hard disk, like how you have a hard disk on your laptops. Similarly, on the server also, you install this particular software called as a database where all the information gets stored. Okay, so if you want to build any kind of an application, you primarily are going to be focusing on these three aspects: browser, that is the client side, then you have the server, which is a part of the server side programming, and then you have a database. Now, it could be with regards to Facebook, it could be with regards to Netflix, it could be with regards to WhatsApp. Irrespective of whatever app that we speak about, these are the three levels in the infrastructure that is going to be there, right? Okay, so how does this all work? Now, at the end of the day, if I open my browser and I say facebook.com and I hit enter, because just typing Facebook on my browser is not going to take us anywhere. The important thing is we have to hit enter, or we have to click. So what happens is, from our front end, there is a request that gets originated, or we say there's a request that is made to our backend. That's the important thing, right? There are different technologies that are available. So for example, you have something called as an XHR object, XML HTTP request. This is what is responsible for you to actually make a request to the server. Okay, that is more at a very micro level, but we are kind of looking at a bird's eye view as to understand how an application works. So we make a request to our server. So when we make a request to our server, this is where the server-side programming is going to come into picture. So the server is going to decide, okay, who is making a request? What is he logged in or not? What type of information is he trying to access? All that kind of logic is primarily done on your server side. We will speak about which programming language goes where, what goes into front end, what programming languages go in the back end. We will figure it out. But before that, we need to understand what type of code you and I as developers are supposed to be writing. Front end is more of the visual, what the user gets to see. Back end is going to be a lot of logic. So what happens when a request is originated from the client to the server will determine all those particular aspects of it. And then if it is able to validate, okay, this person is logged in, then what it will do is it will go to the database, get all the information that is to be given to the user, and then the database passes that information back to the server, and the server is going to send back something called as a response. It is a request response cycle. You make a request and the server will give a response. Many a times people think that, okay, if I have a website and I have a database, my website, which is running on my browser, can directly talk to my database? The answer is no, it is not going to be possible, because the logic of determining who the user is not taken care at the database level, but it's taken care at the server side level. Does that make sense? Right? So a browser can never interact directly with the database. That's never going to happen. What will happen is the browser will talk to a server will internally talk to the database, and the database is going to pass on the information to the server sends that information back as a response. Do you understand the cycle? Request response cycle. Make sense? I want you to type ms if this makes sense. I want you to type dms if this does not make sense. Okay, how about the rest? I want all of you to participate here. Right, many other people who are there, I want you to participate. Is this making sense? Okay, cool. Well, when you speak with regards to your end-to-end application, from a career standpoint, there are different technologies that are currently being used in the industry. At each level, there are different technologies that are adapted. As a front-end developer, you're only going to be focused on the client side and the technologies involved on the client side. As a backend developer, you're going to be involved with server as well as the database, and you'll be involved with the technologies that goes into backend development. And as a full stack developer, you're going to be using both the technologies of front end as well as the back. Now, as you can see, if you're being a full stack developer, you are someone who is capable of building an application end to end, right? Because there's an end to end cycle. The picture that is there in front of you, it's basically an end to end cycle. So when you start working at companies, or let's say you have a project that you want to build, as long as you do not know the three elements that are involved, you would not be able to build an entire app. If you're focusing on just one, you're going to be able to build a part of it, but not the entire thing. So if you want to build the entire thing, it's important that you know all these things that are involved. All right. So what happens when you're doing front-end development, and what are the technologies that are involved? I just want to know from the participants here, how many of you have built a web application or built a software by yourself? It could either be as a project that you're working on, or you would have been working in a company where you've been a part of software development, right? I just want you to type me if you have built an application. Okay. Yes. So have this been a web or a mobile application? Web or mobile? Web. Okay. Some of them have worked on mobile applications. Some of them have built web applications. Okay. Some of them interesting desktop applications. Okay. That's interesting. In the era of cloud computing, desktop applications have been built. That's nice, Narayan. Keep it up. Okay. Now, if you have not built any applications so far, I want you to type not. If you've not built anything, that's absolutely okay, right? Because this is a journey where you have to, if you know what technologies goes into it, you will be able to build it. So if you've not built anything, I want you to type not. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Cool. So you can make a note of it, right? If you want to build your own applications, you now know a clear picture as to what are the technologies that you'll have to learn and you'll have to build. Okay, cool. So what happens is when you're doing your front-end development, one of the technologies that you're going to be learning is going to be HTML, which is responsible for providing a structure to your web pages. Because at the end of the day, when you say Facebook, facebook.com, twitter.com, what are these at the end of the day? These are nothing but web applications, something that's running on your browser. You also have a mobile. Let's not get into the mobile aspect of it. So even those websites or those web applications, they also use the same set of technologies. Now, this is something which is quite necessary for people to understand. Many a times people think that, okay, these technologies do not align with what is being used in the industry. Absolutely not. Whatever I'm going to be speaking to you right now is the same set of technologies that all companies, all MNCs, all international companies are also using, right? So the first one happens to be HTML. Again, HTML is for the client side. What is the purpose of HTML? The purpose of HTML is primarily it gives you a structure for the web page. Now, what do I mean by a structure? Now, let us say if I take Facebook here, for example, the things like input field, provision for me to add a logo, my images, some text, again, series of images, some links. All of these are the functionalities that are provided to you by HTML. Now, the next thing that you should be focused on is going to be CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Now, CSS is responsible for providing style to your web page. For example, if you look at the Facebook's website, what do you have? You have a certain color combination that is currently being used. The color combination is like blue, gray, and white. It's usually blue themed. You also have, let's say, if I'm talking about Zomato, for example, you have it more of red, white, and green. If you're looking at Swiggy, it is yellow, white, and black. So these are the colors that are being used. Now, if you want to style or design your web pages, you're going to be using CSS for it. Now, not just that, CSS is also responsible for aligning things on your web page. For example, if you see this entire web page of Facebook, it's actually broken down into different small pieces. So you have on the right hand side all the people who are online with whom you can chat. Then there are a few advertisements. Then there is this section where you can see your profile information, images being aligned. All these things are taken care by CSS. So the next important one is JavaScript. That becomes the base of today's discussion. Career objectives or career steps in JavaScript, career roadmap in JavaScript. I'll tell you why it is important. The reason why this is important is you see that on your front end, the only programming language that runs currently today is JavaScript. Now that means to say it has 100% market share when it comes to front end. The main reason why there is so much of front-end developer roles, JavaScript developer roles, is primarily because any application that you take in the world that is powerful, any application that you take in the world, it runs JavaScript for their front end. Why? Because the only programming language a browser can understand and run today is JavaScript. So what is JavaScript responsible for on a web page? It is responsible for handling users' interaction. What do I mean by handling users' interaction? Now, let us say the user clicks a link. The user scrolls down. You would have seen this feature on Facebook also. You never go to page 2 or page 3 in Facebook. What primarily happens is you keep scrolling down, and then you will see magically all this data is being displayed to you. Have you observed that? It's called as an infinite scroll. To implement functionalities like that, you have to have JavaScript in place. And then you would have seen this autocomplete functionality where you click on something, the web page changes, and only the relevant data is being shown to you. Again, handling users' interaction is the responsibility of JavaScript. Now, how many of you are graduating in 2020? Or, yeah, let's start from there. How many of you are graduating in 2020 in this list of participants? Okay. Okay, how many of you have graduated from 2018 onwards? 2018 and above. Okay, I see that there are 3 people who have graduated. That's fine. Okay. So at the end of the day, what happens is while we are in college or once we think about our career objectives, The only thing that we've heard about is, okay, I think we should learn C++ because unfortunately our college curriculum has not been updated. It is not aligned with what the industry requires. We still study what was used 20 years back, unfortunately. Like when I was studying, it was the same, because the thing that I studied was not the ones that required me to use at workplace. And that continues even today, right? What students study in college is not the things that companies are working on in real world projects. Anyway, so the reason why I'm saying this is many a times you would have heard about, you know what, I think we have to learn Java because Java is very popular. I think we should learn Python. Python is very popular. Or I should learn PHP. But many of them are unaware that it is the JavaScript which has the highest job market. And especially if you're starting off as a fresher, when there is so much of competition, the entry point for you all is going to be through JavaScript. How am I saying this? I will show you. I've had hundreds of my students who have taken this particular path, who have started their careers, even though they're freshers or even though they had gaps in their career, they were able to start off their careers as developers using JavaScript. So it is important that you align yourself, because at the end of the day, for you, what you would require is that career opportunity where you can start. Instead of going behind a herd where everybody say Java, okay, let me do Java. And you have 1,000 people or 10,000 people who are doing the same thing, trying to get the same job. But if you know that there are other ways of entering into the job market, starting off your careers as developers in the industry, that becomes much more relevant. And also, for all the freshers out there or all the people who have finished but who have not been able to find jobs, let me tell you one thing for you. At the end of the day, it does not really matter which year you have passed out. What is going to be mattering for you is your first job. If you're able to get that first breakthrough, then your second job, nobody is going to ask you what background you have come from, how much you have scored, which college you are from, how many years gap you had. These nobody is going to ask you. The ones that is going to be asking you is only your first employer. Right? Just keep this in mind. Okay, how many of you are from tier 2 and tier 3 colleges where you know the education is not good, there's no campus placements, you do not have enough exposure? How many of you are from tier 2 and tier 3 colleges present in today's webinar? So tier 1 is going to be IIT, NITs, RECs, and the top 3 colleges in your state. But tier 2 and tier 3 are the other colleges. Okay, we have few people from tier 3 colleges, tier 2. Okay. Now, did you have campus placements in your college? No. Even if you did, they will say you have to have so much of years. You should have scored 60% and above or 70% and above. Some or the other criteria they would put into you, right? Okay. So when you come off campus, if there's no campus placements, when you come off campus, there is a different set of skills, or a company is going to look at your career in a very different way. What do I mean by very different way? At the end of the day, you would be more valued for the knowledge that you have, for the skills that you possess, rather than for which college you are from, how much marks you have scored. There is a way campus placements happen, the criteria for selection in a campus, and there is criteria and selection process in off campus is very different. It's not the same. You need to understand that. All right. Cool. I will, if time permits, today I will also tell you the difference of how campus placements happen and off campus happens. But again, if time permits, if not, maybe in the next webinar, I would like to share my experience on that. Let's come back here. Cool. So when you talk about front end, it all boils down to just 3: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, just 3. Then you might be thinking, okay, oh, I thought Python is used for web application development. Java is used for web application development. What is going to happen with that? You need to keep in mind that Python is only used for server-side programming. Remember what I told you about server-side programming, right? It is where the logic gets executed. the ones that are responsible for application of logic. That is where Python is being used. Now keep in mind, on your server, a company can decide to use different types of technologies. It need not be the same. It does not mean that every company uses Python for backend. It's a misconception that you guys would have. But every company will be using JavaScript for their frontend. Now you see the difference? Why would JavaScript be a better career opportunity than going the Python route or the other route? No doubt, Python is a terrific programming language. It is very good. But what you want is you want that start in your career, which will take you into your career for the first 3 years or 4 years. And then you know that the moment you have entered the IT industry, then you can always keep upgrading your technologies, upgrading your skills, and you can keep moving forward. How many of you believe that? How many of you present here believe that what you want is an opportunity to start your careers? I want you to type me if you believe that you have the potential in you, but what you're lacking is just the right step into the industry. There's only one person who believes. Others don't believe in yourself, is it? Interesting. Okay. All right. Anyway, good. People who believe that you have the substance in you and you have to start off, amazing. Keep it up. Others, I would say, have self-belief, right? At the end of the day, development field is not rocket science. Anybody with the right skills can start off their careers. Awesome. The next thing is, when it comes to Java, Java is also a server-side programming language. It is not for frontend. People don't use Java for frontend. People use Java for backend. Again, what kind of code do they write in Java? The logic part, the logical part of it. So if you observe what happens right now, a company can decide to use either Python or Java for their backend, but they have to end up using JavaScript for the frontend. That means to say, a company which uses Python for backend must use JavaScript for the frontend. A company which chooses to use Java for their backend must use JavaScript for their frontend. Right? Cool. So what has now happened? Because JavaScript is this thing that was always there on the browser, internet works on JavaScript. Now what happens is, whatever Python was capable of doing or Java was capable of doing on the backend, today, not today literally, but from the past 10 years, we are able to do the same thing using JavaScript with the help of something called as the Node.js. How many of you have heard about Node.js? Are you aware as to what companies use Node.js? If you look at your backend of PayPal, your backend of LinkedIn, your backend of Paytm, all of them run Node. Okay, there are hundreds of examples, but I'm just giving you something on top of my mind. So now what has happened is, if you see, whatever capability of JavaScript was there on the front end, we can now use the same knowledge on the backend. Now, this is a very interesting proposition, because what companies are doing today is they don't want to hire two sets of developers. Now, everywhere on the internet, you must have heard about people saying full stack developers are on the rise. Companies prefer hiring full stack developers. All of that you continue to hear. Now, why is that? Because at the end of the day, a company wants to get two people's job or two or more people's job done by one person. Why? Simple, cost cutting. Now is a time, because of this entire pandemic, no company would just go on to hire a number of people, say, okay, you know what, I'll give you only front-end responsibility, you do that. I'll give you back-end responsibility, you do that. Nobody wants to do that. Because the more people they hire, the more salaries they have to give. Now what companies are doing is, okay, let me hire a full stack developer so that when I hire him or her, they can work on my full project. I don't have to employ multiple people. Like, for example, simple mathematics, let us do. Let us say for a developer, a company decides to pay 30,000 rupees as their initial salary. Let us take a hypothetical number, or let's keep it at 10,000 because that number works out well for us. Okay. So let us say a company decides to hire 4 developers, 2 developers for front end, 2 developers for backend. So monthly the company is paying 40,000 rupees. Now the company will decide to hire a full stack developer. He is doing multiple people's job. If the standard is 10,000, they will say, okay, you know what? Because I'm hiring a full stack developer, let me pay him 15,000 rupees. So the salary of a full stack developer is more than front end or back end. The salary is more. But from a company standpoint, what are they doing? They're still saving money, right? So that is what people think. This is what happens in the industry. You guys need to get that kind of an awareness as to why something as a full stack developer is going to be a good career opportunity. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. If you feel that it's going to be a cakewalk, it's going to be as simple as me watching a movie, absolutely not. It is going to be challenging. It is going to be hard. But at the end of the day, you need to keep in mind that now is a time where you have to stand on your own leg. Yes or no? You would be dependent on your parents for a very long time. You would have finished your education. Now is the time you take action, where you know that now moving forward, you become a responsible person and start off your careers with these things and these skills. And for that, you need to take action. Okay, cool. So now what's going to happen is JavaScript as a language is not only running on your front end, but JavaScript today is also running on your backend, which is a big boost. Now, apart from that, remember I told you about the database, that there is database as a software where information gets stored. So there is one type of database, it's called as the MongoDB database. And you'll be surprised to know if you want to work with databases, you still have to continue to use JavaScript as the primary language of choice. Okay, even there, you're going to be using JavaScript. And the other type of database that there is called as a MySQL database or a MySQL database. There are others also. I've just chosen one or two just to give you an idea as to how to go about things. Now let us look at the current segment. You have this clear picture in front of you, which is amazing. Now, can you tell me, in this set of technologies that I've mentioned, 2 most prominent technologies that is currently in the worldwide I have not mentioned? I want to see how prepared you are and how much of awareness you guys have as to what is happening in the industry. I have not mentioned 2 technologies. Can you guess what those are? I want to see how well prepared you are, how much of research you guys are doing, which is aligned to your careers. Can anybody guess? Okay, so Akshay is saying React. Narayana is saying R. Again, R is nothing to do with software development. Okay, R is basically at the database level. If you want to interact with databases to generate reports, do some analysis only for that specific aspect, you're going to be using something like R. But using R, you cannot build a real software. You can only build a small part of the reporting tool, but never a real software. Let's say tomorrow you want to build an e-commerce store, or you want to build your own app. You cannot use R for doing it. You need to use these technologies, right? This is where I was talking about the awareness of technologies in the industry. Very good. So Harsha is saying Angular and React. Very true. At the end of the day, the 2 of the most prominent ones in the industry right now is React.js and AngularJS. Now you might be thinking, oh my gosh, does that mean that I have to study all these things? No. It might take you years to master all these things, but I will tell you a clear roadmap as to what all you can learn, what you should avoid, and things like that. Okay, let's come back to what we have here. When you're starting your career, the base becomes HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's the base, that's the foundation. Will this make you employable? No. Just knowing JavaScript today, as in not August 5th, today, but in this 2020, 2021 will not help. HTML, CSS, JavaScript becomes the base. And on top of that, companies will expect you to know either Angular or React. Now, it doesn't mean that you who are starting your career need to learn both React and Angular. No, you don't have to do that. Maybe when you're starting off, no. 1 year down the line or 1.5 years down the line, do it, because it's going to be very, very good for your careers. The more knowledgeable a developer is, the better career opportunities you will get. It is as simple as that. It is not how much marks you have scored. It is not how good of English do you speak, right? It is not if you're from a good college or not. Those never really matter off campus. Off campus considerations is very different. How good a developer you are, what technologies you are aware of, are you in a position to build applications? These are the kind of things that companies look for. Okay, cool. So make this as a roadmap. Okay, if you want to do front end, you'll have to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That becomes the base, and then learn either React or Angular. Okay, in both of them, just React or Angular will not be sufficient. There is one more thing that is there. It's called as Redux. Make a note of it, right? Know that also, because if you know Redux, it's going to help you immensely. Okay, let's come to the backend. Now, should you learn all these programming languages? No, don't do that when you're starting off. Maybe 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, consider learning multiple technologies. As I told you, it is going to be good for you. But for now, just focus on one. Now, should I choose Python? Should I choose Node? Should I choose Java? I would say choose something like Node. Why? Simple. You would have already learned JavaScript. Understand this very carefully. Why is JavaScript full stack is a good career choice? You would have already learned JavaScript for your front end. The same knowledge you will utilize for your backend. You don't have to learn multiple programming languages, because if you are starting off, because I see that most of you are starting off and some of them are yet to start, it is kind of difficult for somebody to begin with to know 2 programming languages and 2 frameworks and 2 of different things. If you take the JavaScript approach, the same knowledge of JavaScript, you can implement it for your backend, and you can also implement it for your database, because the same JavaScript is used for interacting with databases. So why does this make your career possibilities better? Now, please keep in mind, I'm not disregarding Python, nor am I disregarding Java. Each of them have their own space. But I'm speaking to you all with a new path which you can take. Irrespective of whatever your background is, you will still be able to enter the job market. I'm sure that is what you guys want, right? A job which is going to help you, where you will be adding value to the company, and you will have a personal growth, financial growth, and career growth. All these things you would require. Now, let me tell you one thing. Many of you might be from EC, EEE, mechanical. Some of you are from CS. I'm sure you were never given a choice as to what you wanted to study for your engineering. I say this especially for EC and EEE students, because the thing that they've been told is, they're not saying build a career in this. Especially for EC and EEE students, they would say, you know what, you do EC because you have 2 career opportunities. You first try for core companies. If you do not get core companies, then you can also get into CS companies. Haven't you been told that? People who are participating in today's webinar who are from EC background, have you been told something like that? Yeah. Now, back then, you did not have an option of deciding on what you wanted to do, which career path you had to take. Because while we are young, right, around 18, 19, we are not very sure as to what we expect. Everybody says do this, we go do this. But now we are matured enough to decide what is the career path for you. Okay, take a wise decision. Now you have that kind of an opportunity. All right, cool. So this is what happens with regards to the different technology. Guys, 1 second. Ivat beda. Ivat beda. Huh. So as I was saying, now is the time for you to kind of decide as to what route that you have to watch or what route you have to take. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you to take a very quick screenshot of my screen, take a pic of my screen, save it with you. Okay, always come back and keep looking at this to make sense. Go ahead, take a couple of minutes time. I want you to take a pic of my screen, right? I want you to take a pic of my screen. Keep this in front of you, because what happens is many a times when people start off, there is so much of information on the internet. We are generally not sure which one to follow, which one not to follow, why we should follow. We are not aware of it. Right? Take a pic. All right, awesome. I hope you guys found value in this one particular picture. You can follow this for a very long time. Do you find this to be valuable? I want you to type valuable if you find this to be valuable. All this information that I'm sharing with you, if it's valuable, I want you to say valuable. Awesome, very good, cool. Now, having spoken about what is front end, what is back end, what is database, what are the technologies that are going into these applications, I want to help you draw out a career roadmap for yourself. Okay, so in this second section, I'm gonna walk you through a roadmap as to what all you can learn to start your careers. And towards the end, I will tell you the important tools that you should be aware of. Knowing the tools is not sufficient. You also need to be how you should also know how to use this particular tool to craft a career for you or start your career for yourself. Okay. And then I will also be sharing with you 3 secrets of becoming a better developer. So let's get started. So the first one is for us to speak about why JavaScript. So we are only looking at a career roadmap from a JavaScript developer perspective. So the question is, why JavaScript? Very simple. First and foremost, my first reason is you need to keep in mind JavaScript is the #1 programming language. So JavaScript is the #1 programming language. Now you might say, okay, who's saying it? Are you, Anirudh, saying that JavaScript is the #1 programming language? Absolutely not. So I'm sure you must have heard about companies like Stack Overflow, LinkedIn, and HackerRank. Have you heard of these companies? I want you to type yes if you have heard, no if you're not heard of these companies. Okay, cool. So what happens is on a regular, in case you guys are not aware, some of you are not aware, Stack Overflow is like a Quora for developers, question and answers webpage where people ask questions, technical questions, and you can answer them. LinkedIn is a social networking site for professionals. HackerRank is a website where if you want to strengthen your programming ability, you will be able to find a lot of resources there which you can use for benefiting. Okay, see, these are just a little insights into these websites. So what happens is every year, Stack Overflow, they conduct a survey among developers, asking them what are the top technologies that people are using, what technologies companies are using. Okay, Stack Overflow is like the number one resource if you want to look for a programmer standpoint. Anybody in the field of IT, they kind of are dependent on this particular website for a very, very long time and for very different reasons also. So what I want to do, this is publicly available. You can also go search for this and find information and kind of dig deeper into it, right? I've just opened up the live link. So I'll go to the technology part of it directly. Now, if you look at the most popular technologies that are there, you can see that JavaScript becomes number one, or JavaScript is in the number one position. So programming, scripting, and markup languages, unsurprisingly, for the 8th year in a row, okay, for 8 years in a row, JavaScript has maintained its stronghold as the most commonly used programming language. So you can see more and more people, if they're using a certain technology, what does it tell you? There is more and more of jobs. As simple as that, right? So you can see that JavaScript is the one, followed by HTML and CSS. Why is this ratio like this? Very simple. At the end of the day, you know that anything that every application will have a front end, and for that they have to use JavaScript. No other option. That is the reason, number one. Again, every application will have a database. You have to use SQL programming language to interact with databases. That is for something I told you, right? MySQL. So SQL is also there, followed by Python, followed by Java, right? And then following that, you have a lot of technologies like C, C++, and stuff like that. And we are so surprised that even today in colleges, people are taught C, C++. It's good for you to start, but it's not people who are going to be kind of strengthening that to get career opportunities. It is not a thing for them. All right. So there are many, but just focus on the ones that you can start your career with. Okay. So when you look at the web frameworks, remember what I was talking to you about. You can see that you have something called as jQuery. jQuery is also a JavaScript based library, but jQuery is a sinking ship. Meaning what? It was 10 years back the most popular thing in technology, but today slowly it is losing its ground. You can see here, it says, when focusing purely on web frameworks, we see that jQuery is still the king, but it is slowly losing ground to React.js and AngularJS over the year. Meaning what? At one point of time, jQuery was 90%. Slowly it is decreasing. Where React and Angular was 0%, 5%, 10%. Slowly that is increasing. Now let me tell you one thing. If when you're starting your career and the company says that, you know what, we want you to work on a jQuery project, or your responsibility is going to be a jQuery project, I would say do not take up that career opportunity. Wait for another one to come by. If you take up that career opportunity, it is like you trying to buy the last ticket for Titanic. What does it mean? You know the Titanic is going to sink. You're buying the ticket for the Titanic. Don't do that. Wait for some time and then try to look for jobs on React or Angular and things like that. Okay, so that's going to be with regards to frameworks, right? What is popular? You have React, you have Angular, you have ASP. Some of you might also have heard about C# and ASP. Then you see here Java Spring, right? Then you have Python Django. All of these are quite below, but you see the ones that are dominating the market is that of JavaScript. Okay. Again, this is the same thing that will happen if you go to other sites also. I do not want to get into the entire detailed listing. I will leave it for you to kind of explore and kind of decide as to what you would want to, which one suits you well. Okay, I'm just leading you into a certain direction. I'm leading you into a certain direction as to what are the things that are there. I'm making you see things a little differently. Then you can do your own research and get deeper into things like this. How many of you had seen this report in the past? Stack Overflow Developer Insight Report. Had you seen this survey in the past? No? Okay. Yeah. So I want others also to participate, right? Sainab is not participating. Spurti, I've not heard from you at all. Jeffen, right? Others are participating. I want you guys also to participate. Yes, no, maybe kind of answers. All right, cool. Guys, what we'll do is we will take a 2 minutes break, okay, and then we will continue with the next thing. What is the next reason why JavaScript is very popular? Okay, let's just get on a 2 minutes break. I want you to go on to, if you want to go get some water, go get some water, come back, settle down. We will commence, we'll resume in the next couple of minutes. Yeah, so I was talking to you about why JavaScript is very popular. So first one is you can see the statistics that have been shared to us with Stack Overflow, LinkedIn, HackerRank. They talk about the importance of JavaScript being there. The second one is you need to keep in mind that if you want to handle users interaction, any kind of an application, if it needs to handle users interaction, it has to be done via JavaScript. There is no other option. So we need to do it via JavaScript. That is the reason, the second reason why it's popular. So Python cannot handle users interaction. Java cannot handle user interaction. At the end of the day, if you want to handle users interaction, it's only via JavaScript. And the next one is you need to keep in mind that today JavaScript is not only used in the browser. It was created to be the one that was responsible for being used on the browser. But today we can use JavaScript on the server. We can use it on mobile as well as desktop applications. So you'll be surprised to know that the JavaScript that you use for building web applications, you can use the same language for building an Android app as well as an iOS app. You can do both of them using JavaScript. So companies like Facebook, they've released something called as React Native. So using React Native, you can actually go on to build your applications using JavaScript. All right. So these are the three reasons why I would say JavaScript is gaining so much of popularity. Now you tell me, which company does not want these two functionalities? And the user clicks, it should work, of course. They not only want a web app, they also want a mobile app, they also want a desktop app, right? So next is when it comes to front end, as I told you, there is HTML, which provides the structure for a web page. CSS is providing styling for our web pages. JavaScript is adding behavior for our web pages. And then you have options like React or Angular, or there is another new framework that is gaining popularity. It is not as popular as React or Angular, but it is kind of gaining popularity. It is called as Vue.js. Now, one thing you have to observe very carefully is even though you want to do React or Angular, at the end of the day, you observe that it is JS. It is React JS, Angular JS, meaning what? It is still JavaScript. So I find many of them kind of learning React and Angular first without having a strong foundational knowledge on JavaScript. Don't do that mistake. Learn JavaScript well. Not only the programming language, learn how to solve problems, competitive programming problems. You can take it up, solve them using JavaScript, then get into React and Angular. It becomes much easier for you. Competitive programming is your basics of DS and Algo. You need to know that even before you get into this particular aspect of it. Now, what if I don't want an engineering role? What if I want a designer role? That is also could be your career opportunity or career objective. In that case, you can learn HTML and CSS along with you can learn some kind of UI design like tools, or maybe I'll call it as components like Bootstrap, material UI. Now, what if you do not want a developer role? What if you want a web designer role? Let me just align this. Yeah, I think I can put that inside. Here, let's keep it here. Much better. So what if your career objective is not a developer role? What if you want a designer role? You can still, right? You have HTML, CSS, learn any of the UI design components like Bootstrap and Material. But again, keep in mind, you are limiting your career if you just limit yourself to designing. Since all of you are coming from an engineering background, I would say a software engineer role is always going to be better than a designer role. So when I say an engineer role, it need not be like BTech or MTech. Even BCA and MCA people can also get into programming. It need not be just that. There's also something called as legacy, right? Try to avoid learning these things in 2020. There are still a lot of companies who will say that, okay, I will hire you, I'll pay you more salary. Now keep in mind, if a company says you come, I'll pay you more money than the industry, that means to say there's a trap. Especially when they're making you work on these technologies. Why? Because at the end of the day, chances are nobody is agreeing to get into that particular profile. This happens a lot, especially for people who have been placed on campus. They will tell you'll be getting an engineering job, but at the end of the day, they'll be doing some kind of a maintenance job. Right? And also when it comes to technology, do not get into these. These were good 5 years back. The career path that I'm giving you is not for 2020. I'm giving you from 2020 to 2025. You can follow this for the next 5 years. Your life is going to be set. Right? Do not get into these, even though the salary is going to be high. These are all legacy. These are all old technologies. So that becomes with regards to front end. And again, in JavaScript, you'll have one more version of JavaScript. It's called as ES6. So there are two versions that you'll have to learn. You have to learn an ES5 version, as well as you have to learn an ES6 version. During your interviews, they will ask you both. Okay, what are ES5 JavaScript? What is ES6 JavaScript? What are the differences between them? All of that you will be asked during your interview process. All right. So if that becomes our front end, then with regards to your backend, what are the things that you're supposed to be learning? You need to learn Node.js. Okay. Again, in Node, there'll be further classification of things. You have to learn about the core modules of Node. Learn Express.js. Okay, it's a web framework for Node. Again, these might be completely new to you. You might not be aware of it. Do your research if you're taking this particular career path. And then you need to learn Mongoose. That is basically responsible for database interaction. Remember what I told you? From your backend to database, if you want to interact, right, there's a request that goes to the database. That is going to be taken care by this particular package or this particular technology, you can say. Learn how to work with databases, very important, because at the end of the day, if you say I'm not going to be doing database work, then you know that the main aspect of it also you're not handling. Because at the end of the day, let's say you're building something like TikTok or let us say something like Instagram. Whenever a user uploads something, like let's say Instagram, he uploads his pics, you need to store it somewhere. So all of that is going to be happening at the database. Without that, you will not be able to do anything. So you need to know how to work with databases. All right, cool. And then comes with regards to the full stack developer. So who's a full stack developer? Now we are coming to the point as to who is a full stack developer. At the end of the day, a full stack developer is someone who can do front end, who can also do back end. Right? You understand the roles and responsibilities of what is for front end. You understand the roles and responsibilities of what is for back end. A full stack developer is someone who manages both. He or she is capable of doing both. Right? Do you find this to be useful? I want you to type useful if you're getting this more clarity in these aspects. All right, guys, I'm going to be sharing a link with you. If you want to get more information like this, you're attending one of the webinars that I'm doing. If you want to get to know more about technology concepts, how to become a better developer, I will just share with you our YouTube link. Okay, I just want you to go there and subscribe to the channel, so that there's a lot of information that I've already shared, something that's going to help you to become better developers. So you can just click on that, go to their site, okay, go to YouTube, and you click on the subscribe button. Once in a while, I keep sharing information. The next video that I'm going to be sharing is 6 do's and don'ts for developers. Okay, I'm just working on some of the concepts and knowledge that I have and my experience. I'm just making a presentation and video on it. That's something that's going to be coming up in the next couple of days. So you can go watch that video to learn more, right? And then I keep sharing a lot of information on our Facebook page also, right? Another key thing, the new initiative that I've started is something called as a daily dev glossary. Because many a times what happens is, for people, they don't know the technical jargons, they don't know the technical terms. They would have heard about something like API, they understand abstraction, they hear about something like XHR, networks, but what do they really mean, so that you can incorporate that in your day-to-day communication, right? So you can go like us on Facebook. So we keep sharing these information called as daily dev glossary. Every day, one word I will be sharing, which is used in the industry among developers. So you can learn that, and then in your careers also, you can start using them. Just like how, let's say, you're preparing for any kind of a foreign entrance exam, like if you're doing GRE, you have to improve your vocabulary. Here also, it is the same. You're improving the vocabulary of your technical knowledge. So this is what I was talking to you about, right? What is algorithm? Now, if you're thinking like, okay, he's so confidently telling all of this, how? Very simple. I will tell you, because we have had hundreds of people who have taken the same path in their careers to transform their careers, right? If you go into this particular section, you have all these people, right? Various people from different backgrounds, right? All these people, not only people who are passed out in 1 year, 2 years back. We had a person who was a 2001 pass out. When she called me the first time, when she said, okay, I want to know all of this, how do I start off my career, restart my career, she told me that, Ani, I'm a 2001 pass out. And I was like, okay, 2011 passed out. Then she's like, no, Ani, I'm 2001, meaning 20 years back she had finished her engineering. Today she's working as a developer. The only thing that helped her was these things. If she had taken the Java or a Python approach, it would have been very, very difficult for her to start off. Right? 2015 passed out, 2014 passed out, right? So I know what I'm speaking about. If you have to get into this particular path, there have been hundreds and hundreds of people who have taken this roadmap, which has helped them. All right. Interesting thing is, I'm not even speaking about people from engineering background. So this is a pic of a guy called as Raghav. He's a commerce student. This guy is a commerce student. He's working as a full stack developer in a company called as Geeky Ants. It's among the top 3 React.js and JavaScript companies in whole of India. Right. So he's a commerce guy who's working in a as a developer profile. Right. Anyway, let's come back. Cool. So I know what I'm speaking about, and this is definitely going to help you. Then let me speak about the other tools that you should be kind of knowing and working with. So the first of it happens to be a tool called as Git. Okay, so it's basically something called as a version control tool. This is going to help you maintain your projects better. So when you're on the journey, learn Git. The second one happens to be another website that I want all of you to sign up. and set up an account, because this is going to be a place where you can showcase your technical knowledge to companies. Okay, I want to speak a little more deeper into this as to how, even though whatever your background is, you can actually showcase your skills better. How? Let me show you. How many of you present here have a GitHub profile? Do you have a GitHub profile? Or yes or no? Simple answer. Yes, no. Okay. Okay, very good. I think we are getting a mixed looking at it. There's 60% of them are saying no, 40% of them are saying yes. So keep in mind, I'm telling you right now what happens when a resume is being shared with a company. Okay, I'll tell you what are the set of things that will be happening when you send a resume across to the company. So when you send a resume to the company, and especially if it's going to be for a developer role, okay, I'm only speaking with regards to a software developer role. I'm not saying this is what is going to happen if you're looking for a testing role. If you want to become a tester, this is not relevant for you. If you want to get into maintenance jobs, this is not going to help you. If you want to get into SAP and Oracle, what I'm sharing with you is not going to help you. Okay, I'm specifically telling you from a developer position. And I believe that all of you here want to be a developer. If your plan is not to be a developer, I would say get off the bus. Was that the Rafale? Maybe, not sure. Okay, cool. So let me tell you why GitHub, or how you can use GitHub to showcase your skills better. Okay, let me tell you. So I have the GitHub link of one of our students, right? His name is Shrikar. Yes, let's see if I can bring up his pic. Yeah, he's here. Sure. This guy. Okay, so he's again an EC guy from a college in Shivamogga, Karnataka, Shivamogga, and he works again at a company called as Geeky Ants, right? Cool. Why am I bringing this up? To tell you what you can do to demonstrate your technical skills to companies. Now, watch this. When you apply for a company, you have your resume. Okay. Again, how to prepare a resume, all of that, if you're following our YouTube channel, you will get to know about it. Now, when you prepare your resume, the most important thing is not when did you pass out and which college did you study in. Nobody is really going to care. The first thing a company is going to be looking for as a developer, I'm telling you, okay, your resume gets shortlisted, it's going to be sent to the senior developers in the team. What will the developer do? He on your resume will be looking for your GitHub link. That is what he's going to be looking for, nothing else. He will not see what is your marks, which college, which year pass out, nothing. He's only waiting for a GitHub link. Why? Because GitHub is a place where a person can showcase his technical knowledge. Now, this is the GitHub page of Shrikar. If you go to this particular URL, you will land up on this particular page. Now, on this page, what you should be doing is the projects that you have worked on. Okay, anything that you do, don't just learn it from a theory standpoint. Learn it from a practical standpoint. If you learn JavaScript, build a software. If you learn React, build a web app. If you learn Node.js, build an end-to-end application. So build something, okay? So the projects that you worked on, put the projects up on your GitHub. Okay. Another common thing people do is they'll just put that project on their GitHub. Don't just do that. Okay. When you put up the projects on your GitHub, so here, whatever project he had done while he was studying with me, he has mentioned. Whenever you add a project, it's important that you speak about what this particular project is. This project enables the user to create departments, add employees, and things like that. Whatever your project does, you mention it here. The next thing is give an overview of your project and write all the dependencies or packages that you're using within your project. So what will happen is these are all the same thing people will be using in companies also. So when a senior developer looks at your project and looks at something like dependencies, in his mind, he'll put a tick mark next to everything. Okay, does the boy know this? Does she know this? Yes, 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 yes. Then they'll be like, okay, we could probably consider. If you do not add this, which many of them do not do it, right? I'm giving you this information. If you do not add this, then you're making the developer go inside your project to try to understand, which is a time consuming task. He probably might not do it. You might get rejected there. If there is no GitHub link, you're rejected. If GitHub is there, but you don't mention anything, you're rejected because he does not have the patience or the time to go through everything, because he will receive 100 emails or 100 resumes. He has to leave his job to look at your resume. Now you tell me, why will he leave his job and look at your resume, right? So you're going to make his life simpler by mentioning all these things step by step. All these things you'll have to mention, right? Cool. So all the functionalities you are able to there, you will mention it here. Then what he will do, if he is interested about the functionality, this is all the packages. If he is interested in some of the functionalities, and if you have followed the right programming principles, this is also very important, because now he can see the code that you have written. So he will expect good quality code. That is why when you're doing projects, you have to follow all the good programming principles. You have to write clean code. You have to use proper naming conventions. All of that is going to come. So what he will do, if you're following the industry standards in your project, then he knows exactly where to go and look for what. He wants to see how you've written the functionality for adding a department. So he just goes to respective places. If you know what is the industry standards, you will be able to go there and he will see, okay, what is he doing? All right, he's doing a class component. Okay, he's adding some event handlers. Okay, he's good. He's taking care of client-side validation. Okay, he's handling the event handlers. Okay, he's created a form. All these things they are able to assess. Now, if this is the single most thing that you have to do to become more eligible candidate, taking your projects and just keeping it on your laptop is not going to help. People will doubt whether you've done it or not. Now, when you openly showcase the projects that you've worked with, what the company will do is in your telephonic round, they would have already gone through the projects. They will ask you questions based on, okay, tell me about the project that you've done. Why did you do it this way? They're trying to evaluate whether you've really worked on the project. You get what I'm saying? Make sense? I want you to type MS if this makes sense. DMS if it does not make sense. Okay. Right? So he is able to look at the entire thing of your project, and then he will assess. He'll go back and look at the different projects that you've done. So this boy had done multiple projects while he was studying with me. He also built an e-commerce store. He built a URL shortener. And then he learned how to do stuff like that. This is an enterprise project that he built and things, right? So this is one. So the next thing is, it's important that you not only showcase your GitHub profile, okay, you need to have it this way, okay? Keep this to be the standard that you have to set for yourself. Not just this, it's important that you also so it's important that you also do this. So this is one of the projects of our students. His name is Sanjay. He's from a mechanical background. Sanjay Sharma. So another thing that you have to do is not just this, right? Remember what I told you. It's not only having a good GitHub profile, right? Here is what he's done. He's mentioned about it. And again, he's also doing the same thing, right? The projects that he's worked on, he's mentioned it here. The next better thing is the project that you've done, it is going to be even better if you deploy it live and share the link with the company saying that, hey, you know what, this was my project that I worked on, and you can try it out by going to this particular URL. So what he's done is he's taken it to the next level. One level is speaking about what all projects you've done, what all packages you've used, all of it, right? That's what I showed you from the previous GitHub profile. So what he's done is he's gone on to give a live link, as in he's built the software, he's deployed it live, and he said that, hey, you know what, if you want to try this, just go to this URL and you can try it out. And these are all the functionalities that I'm following. Does it make sense? Yeah. So do this on your GitHub profiles. Anybody who has a similar kind of a GitHub profile, you would want to share your links, you can do that. I can give you my advice. If you have done something very similar, if you've not done anything which I've told you, then follow these advice. But if you've done anything close to something like this, you can share your link and I can give you my feedback on your GitHub profile, right? Again, keep in mind, this guy is a 2019 mechanical student. And again, it does not really matter if you're from different backgrounds, as long as you're committed and learning and implementing things. Anyway, so let's come back to this. So you need to know how to use GitHub, okay? And you also need to learn a tool called as Postman, very important, and then Visual Studio Code. So these are all the important tools that you need to know. Yeah, cool. So let's get into the next part of the 3 secrets for being a good developer. Now, how many of you want to know the 3 secrets of good developers? If you want to become a good developer, I want you to type BIO, bring it on. I want you to type BIO if you want to know what are the 3 secrets to be followed for becoming a good developer. Now, keep in mind, becoming a developer is going to be a journey. It is never a destination, because at the end of the day, you need to keep in mind that your real education is going to start the day you come out of college. The sooner you embrace it, the better career you are going to have. If you feel that, oh, I've studied engineering, I have every skill that is required, you know what? Nothing. The things that you've studied in engineering has zero value when you come to the real world of corporate. Your true education is going to start from now. The things that you're going to be learning which are relevant to the industry is the one that you're going to take you to the far destination. Okay, so always be a constant learner. Do not limit yourself in your education. Keep learning new things. So the first secret, it does not come as a big surprise. If you want to get better at programming, the one thing that you have to do is you have to practice coding. You have to continuously keep practice coding. How many of you have seen this person in the past? His name is Tony Robbins. Have you seen him in the past? Yes, no. Okay, many of you are saying no. Okay, so he's a entrepreneur. He's an author. He's an author, American author, and an entrepreneur. He once said, people are rewarded in public for what they have practiced for years in private. Now, don't you think so? It is right? How many Dhoni fans here? I want you to type MSD if you're a Dhoni fan. Yes, yeah, so many Dhoni fans here. At the end of the day, for what Dhoni is the top brand ambassador for all the products, for most of the products, and you see that he's bagging the biggest of the orders. Now we are seeing Dhoni taking crores and crores of rupees of endorsements. But have we seen how much effort that he put into becoming the best of his version? We don't see that. That's always hidden. We only see what they are given in the public. You must have also heard people getting very good packages, right? Heavy packages. But again, for them to be able to take that particular package, you will also have to appreciate the effort that they put in the years. Similarly, even for you, if you want to get the best of the best packages, like 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs packages in IT over the next 5 years, 6 years, it is very much possible. You need to keep practicing every single day, right? So that's the first secret that I want to share with you all. So the second secret is build an app and get it online. Remember what I told you, whenever you learn any new technology, learn the technology with respect to building a real world software with the knowledge that you've gained. And when you build an app, you deploy that particular app, as in make it live. Deploying an app is making it like how Sanjay has done it here, right? He's built his software and he's put it up live. Then next thing you should do is you should share that link with your friends and family. Tell them that, hey, I've built this particular software. Why don't you use it? Give me your feedback. When you get feedback from people, you will always keep thinking about new features and new products that you plan to add to it. You're always thinking about adding new things to your projects. And you know what? At the end of the day, a company will truly appreciate if you have a side project. They will ask you, what motivates you? What is your interest? Right? Keep in mind, people want to work with people they resemble. Let me repeat. Let this go deep into yourself. People want to work with people whom they resemble. As in, if a senior developer finds that you have the same kind of a qualities that the senior developer has, I'm not talking about the knowledge, I'm talking about the qualities. Do you have the same set of qualities the senior developer has? If the answer is yes, then that is when the true bonding happens between them. That is when the true transaction, in terms of, it could be your interviews, it could be your capabilities, all of that is going to get evaluated. Because at the end of the day, a company does not expect you to know 100% things, because nobody knows 100% things. And it does not mean that you have to answer all the 100 questions or 100% of the questions that they ask. Absolutely no. There are certain kind of qualities people will look for, and they'll see, do you have that particular quality in you? If yes, maybe you have not answered all of them. If you can showcase to companies that you're a constant learner, that you've done something on your own, you believe in something, these are the kind of soft traits, okay, of a personality that is going to really appreciate a company. And even if you're 60% to what their expectation is, they could still give you a chance. I've seen that in the past. Just because of a person's attitude, I've seen one of my students get placed at a company. Okay, he started off at a very low level position, at an entry level position, but today he's already a senior developer working in a company. Okay, he's broken all the shatters. Did he graduate? Did he pass all the interviews? No. But the CEO was very happy with the candidate's attitude. But today the guy is drawing around 8 lakhs or 8.5 lakhs as his package. 2 years back, he started off at 20,000 rupees. 2 years later, he's drawing a package of 8 lakhs. Right? So what happened then? When he started off, it was his attitude that took him. But later on, just the same attitude will not help, right? The knowledge also will have to play a big role. So now he's going there, right? Build an app, get it online, work on the feedbacks that you get. And then finally is read articles written from different developers. It's very important. Why? Because you will be in a position to understand their thought process. The other developers' thought process, you are going to be able to understand when you read articles. So then you might ask, okay, where do I go? Should I go to Google and search for articles? No, don't do that. Go to these two websites, medium.com and then dev.to. Okay, go to these two websites. You'll find tremendous amount of knowledge, tremendous amount of information where you can read and get to know about things. Never limit your knowledge to only one source. Especially for a developer, you have to keep getting knowledge from multiple sources. You have to get knowledge by watching YouTube videos. You have to get knowledge by, let us say, reading articles. You could probably also get knowledge by working with a mentor, right? Learning from another person. It could be from any source. Because at the end of the day, in our generation, we are valued by the skills that we had. In our father's generation, they were valued by the assets that they had, the amount of land that they'd made for themselves. That is how it has been from the kings till now. But now it has got to be with how much of technical capability a person has. That is how a person becomes valuable. So these are my 3 secrets for becoming better developers. Yeah, useful?